Welcome, one and all, to this holiday edition stream. Cheers. Welcome. On this episode, we wish you Merry Holidays, because that's kind of what they are, right? Welcome, everybody. Welcome, Rowan, Wardrinker, Leaky, Loaded, the aliens. Yes, that is the theme here. That has become the theme here. The A's. I'm going to adjust the music slightly. Mr. Galentv will be joining us. Will we not be on this Sunday, because this Sunday will, of course, be the eve of Christmas. And so we thought, considering that, maybe we would have another discussion this evening. We talk about a couple things, a couple interesting things. So, one thing to note that Mr. Galentv just reminded me, actually, today is the 12th anniversary of 2012, the end of the world. That was quite a meme back then. We're going to talk about that a little bit. We're going to talk about a couple other things on this edition. And I'm going to cover some news here, too. It's at some point, maybe later on, we'll go through some stuff. So, that's a good question. You'd be working at Christmas Eve, Ron. Oh, Jesus. A couple things. You can see some of the things over here right now, actually. Just a couple things, you know. Just a couple of things off Amazon, you know. Jeff Bezos did all my packing and wrapping this year. So, Jeff, thank you very much. Greatly appreciated. Whoever wrapped all those gifts, probably some underpaid, overworked, extremely stressed out people. But hey, listen, that's all of us this time of year. So, there you go. Yeah. Oh, Jesus, that's, yeah. Amazon is the way. It's the way forward. Thank you, Daddy Bezos. But yeah, without further ado, I will await Mr. Galentv's arrival. I will jump into the chat and wait for him to grace us with his presence. Yeah, I thought, and sorry I didn't see that. Yeah, the new background. I thought I'd do something for the holidays. I thought I'd steal someone else's photo and use that. So, as I've been doing. But anyway, no one's caught on yet. So, hey, there you go. We're still safe. Yes. And we're drinking wine here tonight. Okay, Mr. Galentv. We're drinking a nice Cabernet Sauvignon. We get some wine for the holidays. So, I said, holy fuck, you can't leave all that wine on the counter and not at least have a little sip. So, we'll see if that lasts until tomorrow. But in the meantime, then, maybe I'll pull up some of the stuff here that I wanted to cover. You know, I saw this earlier. I thought this was just in time for the holidays. We don't even need the audio. We can just see. Man, like, I don't know, like, we're living in a fucking simulation. It's just the only explanation at this point, really. Jesus. Yeah. Senmis, yeah. Yeah, wine is great. I have to be careful though. The only thing I can really tolerate is whiskey, actually. But I try not to drink it because I know that it's probably the hardest thing on my body. But I do enjoy a couple glasses of wine or a couple of good beer. That's usually what my Christmas consists of. It'd be a nice cigar. Maybe we'll be engaging, actually. DM Leak, you're also invited to this, but Crindle TV is having a little get-together on Saturday night, and Terrain Beast and Co. will be there, and maybe I'll stream it outside having a cigar. I'll stream a little bit of the party, if he's okay with that happening. It's usually a shit show, so it should be fun. Yeah. The robot. Yeah, that's not even a man, that's an AI, like, and a malfunctioning AI, honestly. Like, Jesus. Maybe he's just memeing at this point. I don't fucking know. It's hard to say. You know, I thought this was, yeah. He's definitely an NPC. I think that is without doubt. Who's running the simulation? Who's running it? We'd have no idea. Probably China, actually, if I were to bet. honestly. But this is kind of interesting. This is just an anecdote from an interview Tucker did recently. Maybe kind of lend this into the discussion we're going to have here this evening. Tucker Carlson doubles down his knowledge of aliens, suggests the U.S. government may have entered into some sort of agreement with them. The comments from Tucker come days after he said what he has learned about aliens is so dark he won't even tell his wife. Now, we know Tucker recently just had an encounter with David Grush. So, fun. They're not aliens. They've always been here. I do think it's spiritual. That's my view. Again, it's not provable, but based on the evidence. If the U.S. government has in fact had contact with these beings and has entered into some sort of agreement with them, it's a very heavy thing. Tucker previously said that the things he has learned regarding aliens are so dark that he won't tell his wife. There are parts of that story that I do not understand at all that are really, really, really dark. It's so dark that I haven't told my wife about it, he said. Parts of the government don't want you to know about it, but part of it is the public can't deal with it. It's too far out. The implications are too profound. I keep hearing this. And we keep hearing this from people. And I think we've speculated on this endlessly. I mean, are aliens abducting people? Are aliens paranormal phenomena? Is that what's responsible for paranormal phenomena? How bad does it get? So, yeah. I'm curious as to what they're going to say and how bad it is. I would presume probably some of the stranger anecdotes may be like holding some water going forward. If that's in fact what's going on. So, yeah, we'll see, yeah. And it could just be two words again that they've been confused through time as these kind of metaphysical entities just because of how advanced they are. So, maybe. I don't know. I don't know that's what Tucker's getting at. It seems to be what people are starting to get at is that they're responsible for paranormal phenomena, like poltergeists and shit like that, and that they're far more involved with people than maybe ufology wants us to think even. So, yeah. It's hard to say, yeah, Rowan. There's tons of that. There's a hybrid program in ufology. I don't know if the R word is necessarily what they do, but it could be an agreement with the people as well they're dealing with. They may just be cognitively aware of it or consciously aware of it. Hard to say. I don't know. Maybe it's like full blown, like fucking crazy, like, and they actually are in positions of government and stuff. I don't believe that personally. I don't try to believe any of this necessarily. I think that that's probably bullshit, but yeah. Personally, I have no idea what to believe or think. Janita, yeah, that's probably where a lot of us are though. Honestly, right now, it's like, yeah. This guy says, my opinion, don't trust your government. Well, that's a given, I think. But I thought I would read this, honestly, this anecdote from Tucker. He's been on a couple podcasts since the Grush thing talking about this. And so long as this is an older interview, I don't think it is. I think it's fairly recent. And he didn't really talk about this publicly until that happened. So I'm assuming privately he had a conversation with Grush where maybe some of this stuff got brought up, which is then again trending in the schizo paranormal direction. So, yeah, that could be it. Yeah, or they just want to start a new super race, and they're just like using our genes, right? Maybe genetic material is hard to come by in the universe, and they said, "Oh, here's a bunch of crazy monkeys on this planet, right? We might as well just use them." And here we are. But who knows? I thought that was kind of an interesting anecdote. This music is very festive and very strange. Anyway. Yeah, moving on, I guess. This. This is interesting. Yeah. His name is yeah, the football twin man. Yeah, that's exactly. They can take him, not me. Yeah. I'd much prefer that. Colm Keller, who is a scientist who worked in the OSAP program, explains the primary reason for OSAP receiving $22 million from the U.S. government, and it was threat analysis, capability, intent. I mean, again, it seems like a bit of a farce to me, though, if this is as dangerous and schizo as some of these people are implying, that publicly all the U.S. government has invested into these programs is $22 million for OSAP. Like, that is like less than pennies compared to what they spend in some of these other programs. And last, behind the scenes, they've been dumping far more money into it. But anyway, Dr. Keller says that during the OSAP program, they went to extraordinary lengths to find out the intent of the UFO phenomena. He also makes it clear that non-human UFO capabilities and performance are vastly superior to any human technology, including technology and special access programs. If true, we are not the dominant species on this planet, and the alleged NHI are in control. Sounds like deception is on the menu. Oh my. So that's a TLDR on that one. I mean, you know, God damn it. Is that what's going on? Is David Icke right? I would think probably not. But I guess we're going to find out here soon. Stay tuned. That's literally the meme right now. Is just stay tuned. Just wait. It's coming. And then it's starting to like make a mess everywhere. And then we're going to fucking slip in it and hit our heads and wake up in some like, I don't know, fucking nightmare. And then we're just never going to get out of that. We're just going to live in that for the rest of our lives. Hopefully that's not what happens. But again, it just seems to be trending in a really bad direction. I hate to bring him up, and I thought I had something here with him, but maybe I exited out of it because I couldn't stand looking at him. Stephen Greer. Stephen Greer has made a good point in the past. And the point that he's made is that up until this time, a lot of this information being disseminated out into the public domain is by people within that were within or from the military-industrial complex. And the narrative from these people, right, is we need a boogeyman or else we go out of business and we all become poor, et cetera, et cetera. So they're looking for the next boogeyman, right, to kind of rally the people behind, and so they will fund them, right? Or so people will be okay with going further into debt to fund them, support them. So you have to kind of wonder sometimes when you're hearing all this rhetoric from people within these special access programs that were deeply embedded in the military-industrial complex, that all of these aliens are bad and they're doing really bad things. It's really dark. It's like, okay, we need to be careful where this narrative goes, because if it starts to shift over to we have to fight them, I can't imagine it's going to go to that, because this guy's just highlighted here. Anecdotally, from some of the military footage, if that's anywhere even close to being like a representation of their attack, we're completely fucked anyway. But I don't know if I trust them. Oh, you're home. Oh my God. You're so close now. That's so hot. But yeah, I don't know. I just feel like that there's unfortunately probably something to that narrative where some of these people may be kind of influenced psychologically from the military a little bit too much, where they're like looking at this phenomena as bad because it's threatening them, because it's more advanced. And maybe, I don't know though. You just ordered, what's this? Oh, you showed me this on Instagram. Yeah. Merry Glizmas. It's too bad it's not going to be here in time. That's very nice though. I was saying, yeah, this would have been a really nice Christmas present from you, Train Beast. Shame, such a shame that I couldn't wear that at the Christmas party. You're the glizzy. There's nothing wrong with that. And what sizes are left? Oh, you can select different. It doesn't just preview the colors. Dark Heather. What? That's a strange color. Oh my God! Look at this. Off-standard print. Shipping was fast. Wow, look at this. Etsy.com. Wow. Oh, here's some other ones. Hot, juicy, tasty glizzies. Hot dog slut. Oh my. Happy Crimsmas. Dirty Ho. There's so many like meme stuff this year. People have been showing me so much of this stuff. Very nice. Yeah. Yeah. There was another one that someone showed me too, actually. That was kind of similar to this, but a little bit more profane, I guess, to do with Glizmas. But listen, maybe we'll fire up Crendell's barbecue on Saturday there, Train Beast, and we'll throw a couple glizzes on the fucking the BBQ. We'll have our own Glizmas, right? Maybe we'll throw a whole pack on and eat them all. Who knows what'll happen? Who knows, right? But yeah, this is This is it. Oh, welcome, Mr. Galentv.
What the hell is Glizmas?
You're gonna find out.
I guess so.
You're gonna find out, bud.
Why was the hot dog in the cradle being beamed up to heaven, beamed up to the sky? Or is that supposed to be a Jesus hot dog?
Yeah. Well, you just wait. Like, listen. You don't know what we do with leftover hot dog water. You're gonna find out.
Hot dog. Oh, you use that as like a not an accelerant, but as a flavor accelerant, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah. Usually enema, but we'll find out what happens this time.
Oh.
Yeah. That's a true Glizmas. That's a true ending. That's the best ending to a Glizmas. Yeah.
Sounds more like a Grismas, as in grizzly. I don't know. I can think.
Yeah, if you don't let the water cool down, it can be. But yeah, we'll find out. We'll find out what happens.
Goodness gracious.
Welcome, Mr. Galentv, on this holiday edition of Schiz-o Sunday.
I wasn't sure what the plans were for Sunday. Sunday was Christmas Eve. Might be a good day to do a truly Schiz-o Thursday, as you have a Schiz-o mistletoe.
Yeah.
Kiss under the Schiz-o mistletoe. I like that.
Yeah.
It's a nice little cheery ring to it. You need like a little like snowflake background, over screen, whatever.
Yeah, I should. I was looking for that. I was looking for that and I couldn't find one. Yeah, so that's unfortunate. I couldn't find that, but yeah.
So we have shifted the Sunday to the Thursday to make things even more schizophrenic, perhaps.
Yeah, well, yeah.
For it is truly on an off day.
What day is it?
Well, there's a couple things to think about today. Coincidentally, and I did not think about this until today. This just occurred to me today. 11 years ago, on December 21st of 2012, many still think that the world did, in fact, end that day. Here we are 11 years later.
Yes.
It was 11 years.
Yes, I said 12 earlier, yeah.
It was 11 years.
Yeah.
Why did people think that? Those of you that are old enough, you may have remembered, there was big hype around the end of the Mayan calendar. It would enter into a new age. That one age would end and a new age would start. I can't remember exactly what it was called. I remember it started with a B, and that was a cycle.
The Baktun.
I knew it was something like that, but I didn't want to say it.
Yes.
The Baktun cycle.
Yes. It was a long calendar.
Interpreted many different ways. Some people thought it would bring in just a new age, that nothing would really change. It would just be a shifting from one age to another. That you would notice little subtle changes, but it wouldn't really be like anything different. The people theorized that there would be a cataclysmic and apocalyptic event that would happen. And they'd say, the reason for this, they'd say, those Mayans, they were pretty good at astronomy and math. How the hell did they figure this out? Why this day? Is it because that's just how many days were able to be put onto this thing? Did they know some other secret that was going to happen? It turned out that for most people, there was no secret, and it was more of just like, that was all the numbers they could fit on the wheel, maybe, on the circle, on the disc, on whatever the trophy was, and that nothing did happen. There are many, though, that are convinced that we have still shifted into a new kind of world. And in fact, this is supposed to be the worst period in time. That is to say, we're going through if one would say, a dark age in humanity. That is to say that is why so many things, the perception of the world being so crappy, is that it's because we have shifted into this new age from it. Now, a little bit of history on it, though, would be is that supposedly this whole thing just started because a bunch of authors got together and they realized that this calendar actually ended, and that there was some discussion of some apocalypse, but there wasn't really like much talked about it. And then they said, this makes for good writing. So some people wrote with it, and eventually a movie was made. A movie called 2012 with who the hell is that guy? John Cusack. That's right.
Yeah.
It talked about many different takes on what would happen in the world. Tidal waves smashing into the side, into where were they? Was it New York?
It was in
Or
New
was it
York. They've got it
yeah,
up in
yeah.
the Himalayas, right?
The Himalayas was one.
The Tibetan monks standing there in front
Yep.
of the tsunami coming over the
Yeah,
Mount
I remember
Everest.
the big tsunami went and hit the high peaks of the Tibetan monastery,
Yeah.
or in the monk monastery. They discussed how the poles would shift in the earth, and that when they were up in the plain, that where they were, the ground beneath them was no longer the same because it had literally changed the landscape,
Yeah.
shifting the earth, shifting the axis of the earth physically.
Yes.
And there was discussion. They ended up going to was it China, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Was that where like the arcs were? They
It
built
was.
these arcs, and only the very select few, those that either could buy their ways in or those who were thought were valuable to humanity at the time, were given permission to enter onto these arcs. And so the story goes, for those that have not seen the movie, that John Cusack and his family, they try to sneak their way onto the arc because they just happened to, hear what was going on. They had that one guy that was broadcasting the radio from in front of Yellowstone Park, in front of the volcano there. The volcano erupted, and he's just screaming. He's like, "Come get me! The end! The end is here!" And then he gets hit by a big force, and
Yeah.
I
He
think
was kind of like
probably-
us. That guy was kind of like us. That guy.
He would have been a representation of you and I in that
yeah.
movie.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, pretty much. All he ate was pickles too. Yeah.
Is that right? I didn't remember that part.
Yeah, he what was his name? What's the guy? What's he? Woody Harrelson's good part in that. Yeah, he lived in the woods.
Yeah, that's right. It was Woody.
Yeah, it was Woody Harrelson. He lived in the woods, and all he lived off were pickles. And I've seen the movie a couple times. I actually kind of enjoy the movie. It's like a disaster movie. I love disaster movies. Yeah.
It's a cinematic spectacle. You get to
It
see
is.
all the things and all the big shots of the world and see what would happen. You go, wow, that's how it would happen. Now that movie came out in was it 2010 that it came out?
I think it was 2009 or 2010. Yeah.
Yeah, it was somewhere around, because that was when this was really picking up steam, was around 2009, 2010.
Yeah.
And a lot of people were unsure. There was a lot of uncertainty going on at that time.
Can I chime in
Or
for
here-
just a moment on it?
Sure.
Actually, I just want to state that a lot of the initial hype, the foundation of it, the reason people knew about the Mayan long count calendar was actually in part due to Graham Hancock, who is someone I brought up here before, who's been on Joe Rogan's podcast many times.
Is that right? It was
Yeah,
Graham Hancock?
yeah. So Graham, in his book, Fingerprints of the Gods, Fingerprints of the Gods came out in 1995, and it was this like super popular kind of alternative history kind of go-to book. And in that book, he had speculated about the Mayan long count calendar, and he had thought and suggested that 2012 may be significant in like a whole like cyclical catastrophe type kind of way. And so he had pushed that quite a bit, and he kind of walked it back a little bit over the years, but he was definitely involved in hyping 2012 up and played a fairly significant role, I'd probably argue, in the hype that led to it. And I can't remember, it's been a while since I've read Fingerprints, but I think he may have mentioned even Hapgood's pole shift theory in this. I can't remember. But
He must have been the writer that the outlets talked about.
well, I mean, yeah, he definitely had a hand in inspiring like that narrative for the movie. So yeah, a great book still, by the way, for anybody wondering. And he has Magicians of the Gods is his sequel to this, which came out in 2017, I think, which is a very good book as well. I highly recommend both of them. So yeah. So
Did you buy into the 2012 phenomena at all?
That's a good question, because for me now, I would have been in 2012. I would have been 22. I'm 1990 baby. So I've been following this for quite a while because on like conspiracy theory forums and people like in ufology and stuff, they had talked about it, and it was probably in the early 2010s I got acquainted with Graham Hancock's work because he was on Ancient Aliens. And I've been following the Ancient Alien series, and he appeared on there, and he was also appearing at that time, I think, on Joe Rogan's podcast. So I had got into and read Fingerprints of the Gods, and then I went through kind of the evidence for the Mayan apocalypse, and the archaeologists were kind of just saying that all it was signified was the end of a cycle. And so their argument was, oh, well, this is just the end of a cycle. It restarts again. What's the big deal? But I think Graham's point and other people's points were like, well, there are other accounts deeper in history, and when cycles end, civilizations fall and crumble and are usually destroyed by catastrophe. So he said, well, did they know something we don't? And again, it's this narrative that like we had maybe this more advanced culture in our past that passed along astronomical observations to these primitive cultures, and maybe they enlightened them and gave them this knowledge and then made a calendar for them, and then that's what's been ticking down. And so Graham, that's kind of Graham's narrative, where he's talking about this lost ancient civilization that was advanced, and that they may have had a hand in making this calendar even. And then if that's the case, whatever we're counting down towards could in fact be significant. So I thought it was interesting. I didn't think that the world was going to end in 2012 at all, personally, just because, again, I'd already heard it a couple times by that point, and I was like, all right. I'd already been through it a couple times. I was like, all right, okay. But I thought it was a funny meme. What did you think, Galentv?
Well, it sounds like you were kind of at where I'm at now, back then, where you go like, all right, we've seen a couple of these, they come past, and the more you go through it, you go, oh, here we go again, and then nothing. But I will admit, at the time, although externally I wouldn't have admitted it at the time, I definitely was super worried about it. But there were a couple back then, I would say, so I'm a couple of years younger than you are, and, your life's just getting started. So I was 20 at the time. I would have been close to 21 at the time. Your life's getting started. You go, it's not fair. I was just about to do stuff. Yeah. Here we are 11 years later, and I still haven't done stuff. And now I go, well, at least I got to choose to not do stuff, perhaps.
There you go. Yeah.
And then in the meantime, at that point, I don't think I wouldn't say that I bought into it, but I was worried that it would have in fact been true. And then there was a couple instances of doomsday talk around that time that I'll get into a little bit later. That because I was thinking that there were several things that were going on around that time. There was the probably the first big scare of it that I had was back in like I don't know, if it was like 2002 or something. I remember I saw like a commercial for a CBC little documentary, and it was titled Asteroid, the Doomsday Rock. And they had like people talking like, oh, there might be this asteroid, it might be on a collision course, and it's big enough that it would probably kill everybody. And as a young kid, you go, holy shit, I don't want an asteroid to hit us. What can we do about it? We got to do something about this right now. And so and then a little bit later on, I remember hearing about a discussion of when the Large Hadron Collider was going to be turned on. There was I heard a story about this one guy who claimed that the Large Hadron Collider, when it was turned on, would in fact create some kind of black hole. And he was trying to sue I think he was trying to sue CERN for like endangerment of the planet. And after that, and that scared the hell out of me too. Yeah. And then after that, then we get into 2012. Now, once 2012 came past, you start to kind of cool down, and you go like, okay, we've survived 3 apocalypses now. Yeah. The apocalypse ain't shit. And then now you kind of go through. So I mean, like now you see something like that, and you're just kind of like, well, there's like a couple of perspectives, I guess, to think about it. You think about like you don't want to die, but then the other part is like you don't necessarily want to survive it either. Because it would be a pretty bleak world if you did survive it. And you would say that, well, maybe death isn't so bad in that case. To live to the alternative. Yeah, I think it's really just I think it was really just a fear of like facing death at the time. Yeah. But anyway, I will admit I was pretty spooked by the whole thing. I didn't know. I wouldn't say that I would buy in like 100% like it's certain, but I would definitely like worried that it was possible.
You were suspicious, I guess. You were suspicious of it, yeah.
Here, you got me on here. I'll talk about all my fears as a kid here.
There you go. Yeah. Well, I just want to say too that I would say probably I was kind of the same. same. So at that time as well, so this would have been 2010. So I would have been 20. I started reading Zecharia Sitchin's books, The 12th Planet. And that's what got me into the whole kind of Nibiru meme. And then from there, I started to look through history and it was like, okay, well, what truth is there to this? And from there, I also stumbled upon Nancy Leader, who talks about like the whole, she has a Zeta talk thing. She talks to aliens, and the aliens are warning her Nibiru is coming back. And in my search through that whole thing, I kind of, and that is about a large comet the size of a planet coming by the Earth and is slinging trash at the Earth and pelting it and causing a cataclysm. Although in her story,
hold on, I just remember that's what Apophis was, because I was looking at it, I was like, what is Apophis? And it was like, oh, I think that was the one they actually talked about in the CBC documentary, was this Apophis asteroid.
I think it's still due to come in 2029.
It's due to come because it was around 2027 or 2029. Is it supposed to make like a nearby pass from it? Anyway, now that was like a really big one. Sorry to cut you off there. I just remembered it.
Yeah, no. Well, it's relevant. So now they're thinking it's 2068, and the new data suggests previous predictions were wrong. So things change, right? But the thing about the long count calendar, the Mayan long count calendar, is that it was set in stone, literally, in this calendar here, which on the Wikipedia they actually don't have a picture of the actual calendar. But again, it was tracking the end of a cycle. And Graham in his work, which again I would argue probably his work was one of the seminal works that kind of got this whole hysteria going, was that this cycle must have been significant because he supposed that the peoples were in communication with some advanced groups of people as well, and that these people may have known of cycles of catastrophe. Again, I've gotten into this on this channel many times. I'm not going to get into it right now. Maybe we'll get into it a little bit later. But there is definitely some truth, and there's something to cycles of catastrophe on planet Earth. And some people now are legitimately pointing to asteroid streams we may periodically pass through that could cause these, and that maybe this was tied to it. Now, I heard an argument recently, which is very interesting, which is actually we misinterpreted the long count calendar, and potentially it was supposed to finish in like 2020 or something, or like 2019. So
I remember hearing something like that too.
Yeah, I can't remember what the date was, but that actually we got the finish of it wrong. So it's actually, again, it's like, depends on your perspective. If your perspective is these people were kind of just like savages and they just didn't know what the fuck they were doing, then it's not significant. But even if you thought that they were, competent people, maybe they could have got this wrong. But if this is the work of a more advanced group of people, maybe more similar to like our level of advancement, or maybe just below it, that potentially they were aware of some cycles of catastrophe. Maybe even knowledge passed down from much older cultures that were advanced that died off, and this is what survived. So that kind of like, that is that little tidbit, that nugget in there that like sticks at the back of your brain, and you're like, fuck, like, what if? Like, what if that's the case? But, it's like there were no indications that anything was approaching us or affecting us, or so. Some people, like, there were woo people, I remember, who thought what was going to happen was everybody was going to ascend into like a higher dimension. And there are people that went down to this area here in Central America, and they were on the date, and they were fully expecting they were going to ascend. There was a literal like cult of people, let's call them, that went down and camped out, and they anticipated waking up into a new world, and that they were going to be living this higher frequency. And I think their copium is that the world has changed now. When that didn't happen, they were like, oh, we're in this new timeline now. It's like, okay, shut the fuck up.
Very good use of the word copium there.
Quite literal.
There was one other thing on the calendar count that I've heard as like a counterpoint to it, is that in 1900, that was what, it was around 1900, give or take a couple of years, that was when daylight saving time was introduced. So if you account for daylight saving time, well, applying that calculation to the calendar, that supposedly the date for it would actually have happened much earlier in 2012 than December 21st. That's one thing that I'd heard from it is that if you account for daylight saving time, that it actually changes it quite a bit. Daylight saving time is a fairly recent thing. I think it was first conceived by that son of a bitch, Benjamin Franklin.
God
the
damn
man who's got all the skeletons under his house in France, or had all the skeletons. The man who said a penny saved is a penny earned came up with the brilliant idea of saying, you could save much candle wax if you simply extend the day longer by an hour in the summertime, and then return back to the normal in the wintertime. And we'll add a day every 4 years to account for this. Benjamin Franklin can't take his little idea and fuck off.
Yeah, exactly. This is it here, actually. So this is the thing. So they're trying to make sense of like why it's significant, why December 21st, 2012 was significant. And that, again, a much more mundane explanation, I guess, well, which is probably what it is, but that you can see here in the bottom. So it's like 130000. So that it's just a turning over onto like something new. But if I recall, there were some interpretations under the Graham head name that there was potentially some significance. Again, the degree to which we know these ancient cultures is never as well as usually attributed to like the archaeologists. Sorry, that was poorly worded. But we never know this stuff as well as people sometimes communicate it in the mainstream. So they'll communicate in the mainstream that we know these ancient cultures so well back in front. Like there's no interpretations. Like the scholarly work is settled. Like there's no debate over the interpretations. When in actual fact, there's tons of debate about every minute fucking detail in regards to a lot of this stuff. And when you dig into any of this is what you find immediately is that there's tons of debate and argument, and everybody has their own perspective on it. And there are some things that are established, I think, but it's so subjective, some of the interpretations here. I think there are some objective kind of truths here that they've come to find where, things have kind of corroborated really well. And they'll go, this must make sense. But generally, when you're interpreting these ancient cultures, especially these like broken, extinct ancient cultures, like where they've had these fall off periods and they've lost track of time, and I've encountered that with kind of going through the Exodus in the Old Testament and the looking through that and looking through different interpretations of the Exodus and different translations, how much they vary, how much things have changed over time, how many things have been inserted and removed and edited, and it's actually insane. It's like the worst game of telephone you could possibly ever play. Like by the end of it, you're just completely confused. So it's a good analogy to describe many of these ancient cultures in our work to try and understand them. It's not that I don't think like nobody knows what's going on at all. It's just that this is very complicated, and there is room for debate here still among people who probably know the material well, which is a good thing to note. But that, it's not necessarily a science. All the 2012 stuff comes from like a tiny fragment of a small burnt book, and extrapolating that they try and interpret the markings on temples. We have no idea what we're talking about. Yeah, Ladwin. Yeah, and it's is that actually where specifically it comes from? The actual apocalyptic scenarios? Is that what it was again? Yeah.
Were these temples in Antarctica, perhaps?
In Antarctica. I mean, I know many of these. Oh my god, what are they called? Fuck, not symbols. They're all over Central America. And there's been some some schizo interpretations of these, definitely. But there's been some more like grounded interpretations that definitely speak about cataclysms, and they speak about times of great change. The Mayans referenced, and the Aztecs as well, spoke of giant firestorms that they were subjected to. That potentially were what were responsible for wiping out the Olmecs, which was like the OG lost civilization in central, like, Mesoamerica. And what brought about those firestorms is a mystery, I guess. But there's stories of Quetzalcoatl coming over on a boat. But Quetzalcoatl was not just a person; it was also this winged creature that would periodically wipe the slate clean. So, again, is there like schizo-doc connecting there to like try and explain, well, like, what caused this stuff? Yes, but this is some of the stuff that was brought up and tried to tie to this calendar, that maybe this is what they're describing. The end of this cycle is going to be one of these resets. And yeah, there was a lot of shit. Yeah, most of it because of how much the Spanish destroyed when they took over the Central America. We don't have a Rosetta Stone. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Lot of. Yeah. That's exactly it. Yeah. Yeah. That's a huge problem. Yeah. And also, I mean, and this is something we know now, but they didn't. A lot of the stories we've had to go back through the stories, because. Initially the Spanish didn't really take some of these interpretations seriously from the natives. I tell this story all the time because I think it's funny, but I think it was, oh my God, I just had the name in my head. It's the biggest pyramid complex in Central America. But there's a story, biggest, here's a pyramid in Central America. No, actually, it's not that. Oh my God. Anyway, it's right here. It is right here. Actually, here it's this complex right here. Actually, but this complex is not Tiwanaku, is it? Oh, it is Teotihuacan. Yeah, there you go. And the creation myth here is that a group of gods descended in a giant flint knife, and 1,400 of them exited the flint knife as it crashed onto the ground, and the 1,400 gods got out and built this temple complex. And when you really think about that for a second, it's like, okay, hold on. And this is what they told the explorers back in the day. So, flint knife, when you look at a flint knife, it looks kind of like a fucking craft, descends, crashes, 1,400 gods get out and build the temple complex. And these are who established this culture, effectively, is what they're telling the explorers back in the day. And then these are the people who are also involved in like some of these calendars, and they reference the gods and influenced by the gods, and the gods taught about astronomy and math and etc. and agriculture, and it's so you can definitely, from that, if you want, start to kind of connect dots and be like, well, if those gods were people that were more advanced, then and looking at the construction here, that is not a ridiculous thing to assume, because the scale of this is fucking mind-boggling. And again, you've got scholars working in these areas, right? Being like, oh yeah, well, they just built it. And you got engineers that come in and look at this and they're like, how? Right? So anyway, much debate still, but we'll get on to something else, I guess. But we'll continue Galen TV, sorry, with fucking the 2012. Yeah.
Is there any, I guess that would be a testament to the civilizations from the time, that you would say that, okay, well, something's up with them. They were able to make these kinds of structures. You look at them and say, it seems like they knew something. Like the Mayans supposedly had. Now, I had heard that the Mayans also were actually not that advanced, that they borrowed a lot from like a different culture that was around, or a different group that was around the area at the time. But I don't know what that group was and like how valid that opinion was, but that's one thing that I had heard as well. I don't know if you know anything about that.
I'm not an expert in this area of the world. I will just fucking say that, but I do know little anecdotes that may be kind of confused sometimes. But I'm pretty sure the Mayans referenced the Olmecs as the culture that was responsible for building these structures and or being around them when they were built. And that the Olmecs are a lost culture. Olmecs. Here we go. They're using the Olmec heads. So they're around 1600 BCE. They're the first Mesoamerican complex societies. Their culture influenced many later civilizations like the Maya. They're known for immense stone heads they carved from a volcanic rock called basalt. And now it's interesting because basalt has been used in many other cultures around the world in construction, which probably not unsurprisingly, I guess. But it's a volcanic rock, right? Probably pretty prolific all over the world. But the conundrum of the Olmecs was that these heads have the features of like Africans, which is one thing that people have argued.
They seem really detailed.
Oh, they definitely are, especially for something that's so old. And there's tons of them. Like, they're huge, too. There's a little video of someone beside the heads. And it's a mystery as to what... they've got a man of African descent beside them and how, I guess he's trying to show similar to facial features look. I don't know. Implying who helped the Olmecs develop the first civilization in the Americas. Saying that maybe there were people of African descent... that were over here. I don't know. It's hard to say. Yeah, but yeah.
One of the older theories on that. Now, this would have been way before the time of human beings. Would have been the Pangea theory, or like the supercontinent.
Yeah,
that was one of the things. How that was one of the ways that supposedly there was the sea levels at a different height. So that particularly, I think it was the people that migrated over to Australia, or the indigenous people in Australia, how they got there. Supposedly there was an area that was opened up because the sea level was a lot lower than what it is now. So there was almost like a land bridge connected Southern Asia to Australia that they were able to go across. I think there was another channel that was that connected between Russia and Alaska, and that was how people were able to migrate over into what now, like into the Americas and whatnot.
Yeah.
And but I don't remember where I heard that. But that would be like maybe one explanation as how you might get a lot of people to go over. Now, I don't know if there was this big bridge going between the Atlantic and somewhere in North or South America. Course, but so that would be the thing that you would that would be the question to ask there. However, I think it's been pretty much confirmed that the Vikings were amongst like one of the first people to go from Europe over into North America. Like they landed in like Newfoundland, and Christopher Columbus, he goes and he gets all that credit, and meanwhile turns out he wasn't even the first one there.
He wasn't.
But I think that's been like established right now. Anyway, that's about the gist of the history of some of the history that I know there. But that's I say you got a picture of a Pangea, or like a thought of what Pangea would look like.
Yeah, it's interesting. There's a couple schizo theories, I guess, I know of to try and explain why the Olmecs may have been Africans over in Central America. I mean, one is that potentially there were land bridges, and that. Yeah. Well, there's a couple. So one would tie into where we've been around a lot longer than we think, anatomically correct humans at least, and maybe even the races, where we might have had anatomical humans as far back as 1 million years ago. Like that's among anthropologists, I think, a schizo theory. But there's some weird bits and pieces of evidence that might support that a little bit. I know... now it's back pretty definitively, I think, to 250 to 300,000 years, which is fucking insane when you think about that for a second. If we've been anatomically correct, which means in our current form for 300,000 years, right? Factoring it would make a lot more sense if that was the case, because that was one of those missing parts. Is like that a lot of people use to support the alien intervention is that clearly humans were interfered with. They were accelerated in evolution because there's no way you could have evolved that fast. And you go, well, maybe people were just around a lot longer than what was previously thought. We have structures like Tiwanaku and nice.
like Titicaca.
Oh my god, I love it when you say that so much.
I can't remember what the Teotihuacan.
Puma Punku. Yeah.
Puma Punku. Saxe Woman.
I fucking love it. Yeah. Oh
Anyway,
man. Yeah, you're 100% on board with Ancient Apocalypse. Wow. Yeah. Yeah, I know. And but the point about the LiDAR scans in the Amazon are really trippy. Yeah. Yeah. They're yeah. So the idea though that potentially we go back anatomically beyond 300,000 years, even further, and the other part of that theory is that potentially the Earth is again subjected to some catastrophic changes, and that potentially we have some very aggressive geological changes that go on with that. So one theory which has floated around like TikTok more recently is like pole shifts. Not magnetic pole shifts, which is a magnetic north and south, which drift over time, but physical shifts of physical north and south. And that those pole shifts then would be what's responsible for shifting the plates of the Earth around, which is what's pulled us out of Pangea. So that maybe the Earth periodically, at whatever interval, instead of there's these two ideas. They're called gradualism, which is one that we've kind of adopted in the West here the last 100 years. And then there's another theory called catastrophism. So gradualism is the idea that very slowly over time all the mountains build, and over hundreds of millions of years the mountains slowly rise up and the continents slowly drift apart. And that makes sense, and that's pretty logical, and I think there's an element of that occurs. But there's this other way of thinking that called catastrophism, which is that periodically those things do happen, but periodically there are rapid shifts. So instead of like Africa drifting away from North America like over 500 to a billion years, in like 20 days something catastrophic happens and the entire continental shelf rips away and goes like 2,000 miles or something like. And that's pretty crazy, and it was definitely frowned upon by many academics, intellectuals in the earliest 20th century, because they were trying to distance themselves from biblical literalism. And biblical literalism is the idea that like, oh, well, all of these events that happened in the Bible actually happened, and if you track everything back and do all the math, the Earth's only 5,000 years old, and just these kind of ridiculous theories not based on any science, but based on like just literally interpreting scripture as is. And it kind of got a bad rap for that. And what some other people did in the mid 20th century is they started looking back and saying, okay, no, obviously we're not going to take this literally, but is there anything to these stories speaking about these kinds of rapid changes and cataclysms? Like, are they rooted in something? And it kind of caught the attention of a lot of very credited people. I hate to name drop people, but like Einstein was someone that was very involved towards the end of his life. He became involved with researching this idea that potentially there's something to this catastrophism. So interesting in that maybe things looked 100,000 years ago way different than we think they did, right? And that's, again, it's Jim Polishif, Death, Ancient Cataclysm. It's interesting. I argue there's something to catastrophism, definitely. I'm not going to get into that fucking again right now.
Anybody coming in, we should probably tell them why we're talking about the apocalypse again on this particular day.
Yes. You want to remind them, Galentv TV?
On this particular day, 11 years ago, the world was supposed to end.
Yes.
Many people think that it did in fact end, and that this is now the virtual hologram, perhaps.
Yeah.
But it would appear that life goes on. Maybe it doesn't go on as well as it did, but it is going on. So that's why how we got here is we're talking about 2012, and that led to apocalypse, and now we're at the... Well, how the hell did the Mayans figure this out?
How did they get to Pangina, bud? How did we get out of Pangina?
Pangina. Get to Pangina.
Fuck, how we get a Pangina, bud? Yeah.
This is not a laughing matter. Calling it Pangina is rather dismissive of respectable scholarly work.
Jesus fuck, yeah. I mean, we're trying to figure out where the Olmecs came from and why they look like, for anybody that's just tuning in, why they look like part of you died in 2012. I think part of us all died, actually.
That's why life has been so crappy for the last 11 years then.
That makes sense.
We're supposed to be in the spiritual dark age now, and that everything's going to be bad for like a little bit, and then supposedly around like 2030, 2035, things are supposed to get like a little bit better, and then it's supposed to get much better. But we're at like around the funny thing. If you'll stay with me on this, the funny thing is that supposedly 2016 was the low point of whatever the cycle was.
Oh,
What
wow.
happened in what happened in 2016?
Donald.
So what other the diddle dimph?
Donald.
Well, I mean, it may have been crappy for you losers, but it was a great time for me. I mean, I won the president, and I made America great. I don't care what Sleepy Joe says, and I don't care what Crooked Hillary says. America was great. I was under me. The economy was like the best it had ever been, ever. And, you know, now everybody was just so impressed with how smart I was going there. Not all those haters, those losers.
Yeah.
They try to impeach me. Well, I showed them that I can be unimpeachable. I think that's still going on, but I don't know.
Yeah, he's still fighting that, but yeah.
It is still fighting that.
Yeah. Well, I think we definitely know that the low point was probably in the old 2020 there, right? But 2020 is when things really got fucking low.
That's what it would seem.
That was like, if you're talking about like 2012, that was definitely what I thought it was going to happen. But I don't. Maybe we're heading into it now, though, right? Maybe they were wrong and the Mayans miscounted by like a decade and a bit, and that we're actually about to head into this time right now. And this is the thing about these kinds of conspiracies, is they've been ongoing like every 100 years, and it's actually within the 100 years there's a bunch of other predictions the world is going to end. But I should note as well that leading up to 2012, and this is the importance of it, I think, which is something that isn't talked about enough in regards to the event, but there were many lines from the woo leading into a cataclysm in the beginning of the 21st century, from many different like prophets. Edgar Cayce, who I've talked about here before, which is the godfather of modern woo, spoke about there being earth changes in the late 20th and the early 21st century. There was a guy named Carlos Ferrada down in South America who was this amateur astronomer who had predicted a bunch of earthquakes, and he had said that this object Hercolubus, which is effectively like what we know as Nibiru or Planet 9, X, etc. Yeah, it's called Hercolubus, that it was going to come into the solar system. So Carlos Ferrada confessed towards the end of his life that now he was a fairly, this is probably what not a lot of people know about, but Edgar, get out of the garbage, buddy. Oh, my fucking dog is a literal trash panda, buddy. God. Just a second. Carlos Ferrada. Can I find his? Oh, here it is right here. They call him an astronomer. I think he was an amateur astronomer, but anyway, whatever. He still did astronomy. So this guy was famous in Chile, I believe, because in the 60s, he predicted a series of earthquakes, which freaked everybody the fuck out. And he did it a couple more times the next couple decades. And so he became this kind of local legend. And towards the end of his life, I think he confessed that he was actually in communication telepathically with some kind of intelligence, right? ET, whatever the fuck you want to call it. And so this is similar to other schizo people like Nancy Leader who were talking about how she's in communication. He's hiding under my desk, buddy. Now he's that they were both communicating with these ETs, and this ET told him that this would all culminate in this object Hercolubus entering back into the inner solar system in the early 20th century and swinging by the Earth and causing a cataclysm, which is identical to what Nancy Leader had talked about. And also Edgar Cayce. And Edgar Cayce, again, for people that aren't quite familiar with all this stuff, is an American clairvoyant. He had predicted the stock market crash. He had kind of popularized Eastern esotericism, kind of Eastern holistic medicine as well, was something that he brought to the West. And he did it all under hypnosis, in a hypnotic trance, and that's how he helped people. U.S. presidents went and talked with him and had readings done, and he was like a huge meme back in the early 20th century for people who loved woo-wee kind of stuff. And people, they were called theosophists, which would probably be your schizos of today, were very interested in this kind of stuff, life after death, Eastern philosophies, and kind of meditation and all that kind of woo-wee stuff. So These guys are grounded even proof. Well, yeah, that's the thing. And so the interesting thing about Casey, I should say, now, some of his stuff turned out to be, some of his therapies worked, and that's why he became famous. He did predict the stock market crash. I don't know if he had insiders like a couple fucking years ahead of the time or what, but an interesting part of his predictions pertained to Atlantis, right? Which was a huge meme back then in the early 20th century. Atlantis was on the rise, and people were very interested in the idea of Atlantis and this lost ancient advanced civilization that Plato had talked about in his works. And so Edgar did readings on Atlantis. People would come to him. He would tell them they lived lives in Atlantis and that it was destroyed in a cataclysm, and that survivors from this civilization migrated to many different places all over the planet and established like new little colonies. And one of those colonies was in Egypt, right? At the Giza complex. And Casey, way back, I think in the 1920s or maybe early 1930s, had made a prediction that during the building of the Sphinx, so the Giza Plateau was built by this lost civilization, survivors of it, and under I think it's the left paw of the Sphinx, there was this repository built of all this ancient lost knowledge from this civilization. It's a small room under the left paw of the Sphinx. And so this is, again, almost 100 years ago he made this prediction. Having no experience in Egypt, never going to Egypt, at that time Egyptology was still pretty fucking new, actually. And now, fast forward almost 100 years later, so in the mid-2010s, I think, Robert Schoch, who's a geologist at Boston University, goes to Egypt, and he is one of the guys involved with redating the Sphinx. As a geologist, he looked at the Sphinx and said, there's no fucking way this is 4,000 years old. This is at least 10 to 12,000 years old, which would fall more in line with Casey's timeline, is interestingly enough, which I think Casey put the end of the civilization around like 11,000 years ago, roughly. So anyway, Robert Schoch got his team together, and in studying the Sphinx, they started doing radar like scanning underneath it because they were wondering if there was chambers under there. Robert has a connection to the Theosophist. His grandmother was a Theosophist, and she was no doubt interested in Casey and all of this woo-wee kind of stuff. And so they also wanted to know what kind of rock was under the Sphinx. In doing so, they proved that there is in fact a chamber directly under the left paw of the Sphinx. Now, on top of that, there are other chambers towards the back of the Sphinx as well. But Casey, almost 100 years ago, predicted that there was a chamber under the left paw of the Sphinx built by an ancient advanced civilization, which is something we haven't really contested with until Schoch redated the Asian Sphinx, which then calls into question who the fuck really built it, right? Because there were no cultures 10, 12,000 years ago capable of doing that kind of stonework in our narrative of history. So then Schoch inadvertently may have actually connected Casey's woo with reality. This is the interesting connection here with Casey, in that potentially what he was doing actually had something to do with reality, and it wasn't just some fucking con show, which is what some people ascribe to him as he was his con man, but that he may have actually made a legitimate prediction somehow through the ether, and Robert Schoch confirmed it. So is there a repository of lost knowledge under the left paw of the Sphinx? Guess what? Authorities in Egypt don't want people digging it up. Because if that happens, then the Egyptians didn't build the pyramids and the Sphinx, and they think no one's going to go there for tourism anymore, which is fucking crazy. It's like some xenophobic fucking thing. But anyway. So anyway, but just interesting aside on this. And I mean, Casey, and I'll sorry, Galentv, I'll let you continue on with the 2012 thing, but Casey is also connected intimately to the 2012 argument, because Casey predicted massive earth changes in the 21st century due to shifting energies and wooey stuff, etc. So yeah, there was all of these lines of woo going towards this time period. And the 2012 thing set it off, because here you have this ancient kind of lost culture with this calendar that goes back into antiquity, counting down into the 21st century, and then time's up. And it was like, whoa, here is maybe some of these, if you're coming from Casey's perspective, these survivors went to these areas in Casey's story. So they were the gods. They were Quetzalcoatl on the boat after the tsunami hit Atlantis and the Atlantic Ocean, coming in to see the Olmecs or whoever was there at that time. And that they were who were responsible for passing along this ancient knowledge. So at least dug it up enough to put a gate in front of the door. There you go. There are rumors that actually there was a construction project there on the Sphinx where they were digging underneath the paw more than a decade ago. So this, I think, preceded Robert Schoch's test that he did. But that maybe this has already been done, and this area has already been dug up. So I don't fucking know. I mean, if I was the Egyptian government and I knew all this, 100%, I'd be doing some construction on the Sphinx tomorrow night to dig that fucker up and see what's in there. So, yeah. Well, that's exactly it. Ward Drinker, yeah. Just started read that now. Yeah, that very possibly this is something that they've already done, maybe, or people in the past may have already found. Right? Maybe the Egyptians found it. Maybe back before it was completely covered in sand. Although when the Egyptians found it, I think it may have been covered in sand. But maybe a past culture excavated it and found this. So impossible to know. If you're going back 12,000 years, like Jesus Christ, like think back 1,000 years. We think back 1,000 years. We're in the Dark Ages, right? We're 1,000 years ago. People are in plate mail, cutting each other into pieces with swords. Guys running around with wooden fucking sticks thinking they're wizards. Like, you know, like talking to animals and shit. People were fucked 1,000 years ago. Let's go back 12,000. All right. Just imagine how much more fucked and convoluted things get. Like, it's hard to comprehend, really. Yeah. But anyway, yeah.
If the Sphinx was made by the Atlanteans, and that was 12,000 years ago, how come Plato knew about the Atlanteans 3,000 years ago?
Is that an actual question?
Yes.
I can tell you if you want. Do you want me to tell you?
No.
Okay. Let's keep going. Yeah.
Where was I? Well, actually, there was one part where we talked a little bit about using the Bible as like a historic document.
Yes.
As opposed to, or these religious texts as historic documents. And that segues into another interesting thing that happened very close to 2012. It was about a year before. It was I don't remember the exact day, but it was in May of 2011. It's funny that you brought that up, because they said if we go by the Bible and you do some math and whatnot, figure out the world's like, a couple thousand years old or a few thousand years old. There was one fella that started putting these numbers together.
Oh, Lord.
And he came up with the theory, with the conclusion that the rapture would happen in May of 2011. Now, let's look this up.
Interesting.
There was this guy took out like advertisements on billboards and like TV commercials and whatnot. He was making everybody aware, and there was enough people that were thoroughly convinced the rapture was going to happen.
I didn't know this.
Early on, yeah. It was Hero Camping. That's it.
Yeah. Oh, there you go.
So,
yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
So this fella here, he anybody who doesn't know what the rapture is, the rapture is a time period in sort of towards the end of the world where the righteous and the truly good Christians will ascend to heaven while the rest are left below on planet to suffer through the apocalypse. As more incentive to, as we were talking about last week, to, give thine self to thy basilisk, and to spread thine word of said basilisk and whatnot. And then you'll be given into the good virtual reality, as opposed to going into being left below and suffering the consequences and the eternal punishment and torment.
Yeah, you don't
of
want
being
that.
left behind. No, you don't want that.
that.
So that's what this guy. That's what this guy came around. He figured out a date based on a bunch of numbers. And I can't remember what the numbers were that he used, but maybe if we look into it, we might find some evidence. I see you've got some stuff pulled up there now.
A picture of the rapture. Yeah, I've got the prediction
picture of the
here.
rapture.
Yeah. Okay. He was the president of the Family Radio Christian Network. Okay. Holy fuck.
May 21st, that was it.
There you go. I don't know if I remember this. Yeah.
I can't believe you didn't hear about this. Seems right up your, of course. This seemed right up your alley.
Yeah, no, really though. Camping, who was then president of the Family Radio Christian Network, claimed the Bible as his source.
Now, if you read on further ahead, what happened was May 21st came and passed. Then on May 23rd, the guy came out and just said, well, as it says in the thing there, this is simply just a spiritual judgment day. See, the rapture is really going to happen on October 21st, 2011. Which, then the rapture would happen. At which point, then October 21st came and passed, and I don't think the guys said much since then.
Fuck.
But we should see how he figured this out, though. Maybe how he came to predict this.
A rationale. Here's his rationale right here. Okay.
Yeah.
Several arguments labeled numerological by mainstream media. Would you consider biblical proofs? Okay. A civil engineer by training, Camping stated he had attempted to work out mathematically based prophecies in the Bible for decades. In an interview with the San Francisco Chronicle, he explained, I was an engineer. I was very interested in the numbers. I'd wonder, why did God put this number in or that number in? It was not a question of unbelief. It was a question of there must be a reason for it. Presupposing, of course, the text was actually constructed by God. And not just a bunch of random stories that they plagiarized out of Mesopotamia. Yeah. Thrown together in a giant stew, all mixed up. But anyway, in 1970, Camping dated the Great Flood to 4990 BC. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think it was a fucking clue when that is. So that's anyway. So here's the actual.
He's got the argument there. Well, he talks. They labeled it as numerology. Now, numerology was something I actually came across a couple of weeks ago. I had no idea what numerology was, and it turns out it's like the study behind, or like what are numbers and what exactly is the theory of like these numbers and why these numbers are significant. And supposedly they found this little thing, and it said that okay, if you type out your name, they'll give you the numerology, and it'll tell you what you're destined to do, destined to be.
Oh my God.
Now, admittedly,
okay, pal, go on.
I put in my name, and I will say I was a little bit surprised because it did feel like a pretty accurate description. Now, I will say that as one of the... I have purchased tarot cards. I did buy tarot cards at one time, mostly just as for a lark, and just so I could, like, make some silly prediction. 2 days later, you just happen to notice, and you go, the prophecy has come to pass!
Is that what you tell yourself? Yeah.
Well, I guess so. Maybe as you noted, that would be just copium.
Yeah.
But anyway, the thing that I find with these things is that they're specific enough that you might take some notice on it and be like, oh, that seems accurate. But they're general enough that they apply to like a large number of people, a large number of situations. So in like the tarot cards, what happens is like it might say like, you know, you give some vague description of like you'll notice like something like, you know, magical that will really capture your eye, you know, and within the following days. And then, you know, you look out, maybe you're on the city bus or something, and you look outside and you happen to catch the sunlight dancing off the water surface, and you go, wow, that looks really neat. And they go, oh my God, it knew. The cards knew. When really, like, it could have been any number of things. It didn't really specify anything. But, of course, Hemingway would absolutely just slap my shit now for using personification. I think he was the one that absolutely hated any kind of, like, human comparison, but that's a different subject for a very different time, a non-schizo take. We're here for really schizo takes. We're not here for, like, interpreting other things.
So,
but
here, should we hear the schizo take here? I've got it.
Well, let's see what his theory comes.
Okay. So, the number 5 equals atonement. The number 10 equals completeness. And the number 17 equals heaven. The number of days is calculated below between April 1st, 33 Anno Domini, and May 21st, 2011 AD, is 722,500. Christ is believed by Camping to have hung on the cross on April 1st, 33rd AD. The time between April 1st, 33 AD, and April 1st, 2011 is 1978 years. If 1978 is multiplied by 365.2422 days, the number of days in a solar as distinct from lunar year, the result is 72449. The time between April 1st and May 21st is 51 days. 51 added to 72449 is 7772250. And then it equals, okay. Camping said that 5 times 10.
So it would be 5 times 10 times 17 all squared multiplied by 3. So he's got atonement by completeness by heaven all squared also equals this number. Oh wait, no, that was just the third point. It's just 5 by 10 by 17 squared. Never mind. So atonement plus times completeness times heaven all squared also equals this. Why did he square it though?
I don't know. Where did he get the idea that the number 10 equals completeness and the number 17 equals heaven?
That's numerology, duh.
Oh my Jesus!
It's the numerology.
He I guess he self-published a book in 1992 where he predicted the end times would come on September 6, 1994. When the rapture failed to occur on that appointed day, Camping said he made a mathematical error. What was the excuse in 2011? Another error. Okay.
Why did he square it though? I don't know why he squared that. Like I get like if you multiply like atonement, because he's listed that 5 equals atonement, 10 equals completeness, and then 17 is I don't remember what 17 was. But yeah, this guy took out a bunch of advertising like around the United States and Canada.
Holy shit!
So there's that over by.
Yeah. The end times. No, not 2012. 2011.
This is 2011. This is the year before 2012.
Advertising in Spanish, I think, as well. Good Lord.
I can't. Sorry. I don't know Spanish.
Yeah.
Spanish.
Yeah, I can't speak Spanish either. Yeah, that's wow. What a fail, huh? Like how embarrassing.
I wonder that we should see what that guy's up to now. Is he?
What's his name? Harold Camping. Here he is right here.
Harold Camping. Yeah,
he died in 2013, age 92. So he died 2 years after 2011.
He's that old? Wow.
Some old guy. Yeah.
What did he die from? Was he saved? Maybe he had his personal rapture.
Teachings, theology, end times prediction, aftermath. The aftermath. He admitted that his predictions were in error, stating, "We humbly acknowledge we were wrong, but the timing." He announced the end to doomsday predictions. Oh, there you go. So instead of the end due to doomsday, it was an end to doomsday predictions, is what he announced. Okay, clever. He reported the family radio was rebroadcast and recordings of Camping's teachings. He died of a stroke. There you go. Got him. Got him. That's God smit him down.
Listen. We've mixed up this date a couple times. I'm just going to stop predicting it. It's happening, but I'm just going to stop predicting it now.
God damn.
I see. One of the bumper stickers I saw today when I was out was a bumper sticker of like a cross, and it had like what was it? It looked like a piece of cloth that looked like it was wrapped around the cross, and on the cloth it said, "He is risen." And I said, "What does that mean?"
What part of him?
Yeah. Well, how is he is? Wouldn't it make more sense as he has risen? But I guess has is past intent.
It was he is risen?
Yeah, I think that's what it said. He is risen.
Oh my God.
Now I remember during the tough times of we'll say around that 2020 era, a few years ago, there was a lot of discussion about how they thought that Jesus was going to rise up again. And that they were like, these are the apocalyptic times. And that one particular illness around that time was a form of the rapture, perhaps. Of course, then people didn't want to get it, so I don't know.
Yeah. We could talk. I mean, yeah. We can be careful we go with this because I'm going to ramble about fucking comet planets and stuff. But we're on the cusp. I'm sitting here just titillating. Yeah.
Listen, you keep your bitch ass Anunnaki out of this discussion of Christ and all these other wholesome things, okay?
Yeah.
The Anunnaki need not meddle.
God damn it. Yeah, probably
This is
not.
a purely human problem.
Well, we can talk about here. Let's just do this quickly. This is a fun thing. You can go over to Revelations, right? It's the book of Revelations, right? Is an apocalyptic prophecy with an epistolary introduction addressed to 7 churches in the Roman province of Asia, in what is now Western Turkey, or Asai, I think is maybe how it's pronounced there. I can't remember. But you look to Revelations. Revelation describes, I think, pretty much this like apocalyptic scenario. And in Revelations, the earth really encounters a great red dragon, and there's a good description of this, like a beast-like dragon, this winged serpent-like creature. Revelations dragon.
The beast.
Yeah,
the beast.
This is a favorite of mine here, this interpretation, because I think it's pretty accurately actually represents what they're talking about, like visually. This one too, actually, right here. If I can blow this picture up, if it's not gonna fucking, oh you fucks, right here, there, this one here. That's kind of exactly what is described, actually. So when you look at that. Oh, a quote or some shit. He is risen. Yeah, I think it is. It is actually. DM Lake, pretty sure. The pregnant woman, that's up for debate as to what's going on there. But this winged object, this red winged object approaching the Earth, about to cause this kind of cataclysmic event, is extremely intriguing. Yeah. What they're speaking about exactly, well, again, we could get into that.
It's a funny comment by War Drinker. That's a pretty funny comment.
What type of beast is a train beast? Maybe.
Is it a terrain beast?
A child of Satan?
Oh boy. Oh boy.
There you go,
yeah. Lord. Yeah. Oh man.
Yeah. So there you go. But I got into this discussion with someone the other day, actually, who is a kind of pretty like diehard like Christian. They're not like big into like organized religion or anything, but I was kind of speaking about some of the stuff like symbology, the origins of many of the stories, right, spoken about in the Old Testament, but in the New Testament as well, like Revelations. These stories too, speaking about this object, which they've called Lucifer, I think, actually, that was responsible for this kind of apocalypse. So yeah, it's very interesting. It's very interesting. Even references within the New Testament about he is going to return, he is going to come back, and they're implying this like cyclical nature to this happening. And again, you find this theme time and again of like cyclical catastrophes throughout many different ancient religious texts and ancient cultures. And there's only one thing for me that would be really responsible for any kind of like periodicity, which would be astrological objects, you know, so comets, planets, stuff like that. I mean, what goes around comes around, right? So that would make sense to me personally.
Do you suppose that through some kind of crazy prediction, and I mean crazy, that somebody would predict, like accurately predict, like a biological evolution path that would create an apocalyptic entity?
That's a good question, actually. If you're talking about like the Antichrist kind of stuff.
Well, the Antichrist segues nicely into what I want to talk about here.
Sure.
Into the next part here, but it was just one thing that I was thinking about, because go to I don't know if you're familiar with like the Alien or the Aliens franchise that much, but their thing. Yeah, I'm not that much either. That's more of like Craig Leak's thing. But from the bits of it that I've seen is that what happened is there's kind of like a genetic. It was kind of like a essentially like a biological weapon was created, and then that
Yeah.
led to, through like a series of mutations, led to the xenomorph through like a series of events and whatnot. And that's kind of like what happened to Prometheus. I'm sure that I'm missing a lot of
Right.
pieces on it though. And this xenomorph creature was essentially just a big killing machine, and it
Yeah.
also had would just cause like biological I guess it was like, yeah, like eggs and stuff with it. But this like the little organism was like this little goop and whatnot that was
Hmm.
created, and if this goop was like essentially like got into like your body, it would like mutate the body and like take it over, and then it would like reproduce based off that, and essentially it would try to like adapt whatever gene pool it will get to try to create this super creature. Um, Very much similar to, as I understand, I don't know if it would be quite as similar to the little shadow to terrain beast as like the Tyranids from the Warhammer 40k.
Hmm.
That was pretty much what like the Zerg from the StarCraft series was based on. Was like this like consume and like adapt this like set of gene pool to like perfect like these kinds
Hmm.
of things. So like, could you have like some kind of naturally evolving thing, or would this have to be artificially engineered?
Hmm.
But
Interesting.
this kind of segues into one thought that that might happen would be some kind of like ancient bacteria, maybe, that lay dormant in the ice. Now, as we mentioned with the Antichrist here, we may remember way back to our little story about the pyramids in Antarctica that had the depictions of the stuff, and they talked about the Christ and the Antichrist.
Yeah.
But let's go aside from that now, because we don't know much about that. Oh, look at that! There's a zombie virus frozen in the
I wanted to pull
permafrost.
this up. Yeah.
What is that?
Y-
I've seen because I thought I heard something. That's actually really recent. Wow, look at that! That's from March 2023.
yeah.
That wasn't quite what I was going to get into. In as per request by none other than War Drinker, many years ago,
Yes.
there was allegedly
Yes.
some kind of organism that was found underneath the ice.
Yes.
Underneath in a glacial lake is what it's known as. And this organism has been dubbed as Organism 46B. Now, what is Organism 46B? This was the claim that I found on a little wiki for it. So
Monster
there's like
Wiki.
a cryptic monster wiki, a cryptic wiki.
Just
I'm
gonna get
using
a
the
drink of
monster
water.
wiki.
Continue. I'm gonna
Yeah.
listen.
So this thing is thought to be as like some kind of squid-like creature. And this lived under like a glacial lake in Antarctica, and this was called Lake Vostok, underneath the ice of Vostok Station in Antarctica. Now, the claim was that this thing was about 10 meters long, had 14 tentacles, it was enormous. But the interesting thing was is that supposedly it could release a toxic into the water to immobilize prey from up to 150 feet away. 150 feet, that's, I guess maybe that's like maybe around 50 meters. I don't want to do like the math on that, but it's quite a ways away, especially if it's underwater. So that would suggest that it had like some kind of like jet stream, like propulsion to it. More, no, propulsion's not the right word, but it could kind of like compress and like shoot air. I guess would be to get this thing to launch so far, and displayed an astonishing degree of shape-shifting. They said its limbs were animated, aggressive even after it was amputated, and showed considerable degree of both hostility and intelligence. So how the hell did they find this supposed thing? Well, go back into 1957, when Vostok Station was established by the Soviets, and it was discovered to have been sited atop a vast body of liquid water beneath the ice. Now that's one thing that a lot of I guess like a theory or a lot of research is being done is they're trying to drill into these ice cores. Part of it is to get a part of it is to see, like, you know, maybe you can get an insight as to what life was like way back when and with these ice cores, but maybe you could find other forms of life, such as what this thing supposedly that lived underneath the water. Anyway, so Dr. Anton Padalka claims to have been part of the first scientific. Sorry, I gotta go back a little bit. So after 30 years of ice core drilling, the research team finally breached through to the lake on February 5th of 2012. This is the only encounter must have occurred sometime between then and November 30th of 2016, when the story was first broke. Anyway, although dates have so far been proven impossible to track down, so we'll get into like the say the oddities of this, perhaps in the story in of itself, but some of the dates. So this guy, Dr. Anton Padalka, claims to have been part of the first scientific expedition to explore the lake. We encountered organism 46B on our first day. It disabled our radio, which we later learned, to our alarm, was intentional. It is also able to paralyze the prey from a distance of up to 150 feet by releasing its venom into water. Tragically, my colleague and lifelong friend was killed this way.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Okay. Just throw that in there. Just lost him.
So later, while diving the lake, the group was attacked. And the creature released its venom into the water, which took hold of one of them and then killing and eating him. As Padalka said, he tread water there wearing a blissful smile as the organism approached him. We watched helplessly as it used its arms to tear off its head and then propped its remains in its mouth. It was as if it had hypnotized him telepathically.
Okay.
Gruesome way to go.
All
Gruesome
right.
way to go. Still later, 46B stalked the group, displaying its shape-shifting ability. It shaped itself into form of a human diver. We thought maybe it was one of our colleagues swimming towards us in scuba gear. By the time the closest scientist had realized what it had grabbed him and torn him to bits.
Jesus.
Escaping the creature, a member of the team managed to lop off one of 46B's tentacles, although later the limb attacked the group again. Later that night, it slid across the ice bank and strangled her, stated Paldark. After finally trapping the creature in the tank, the surviving members of the team brought it to the surface, where they claim Russian officials seized the beast and told the international press that nothing had been found.
Jesus.
Well, here's the aftermath is that Dr. Padalka fled the country after allegedly discovering that Russian President Vladimir Putin had plans to weaponize organism 46B. The Russian government has denied all knowledge of these claims, naturally.
God.
So, thought is that this might have been a potential hoax from it. So this guy, this was like a guy who came out. I think he gave like the news story with it. I think he actually like came out and like gave a reporter a story with this. So they say this is made up by the fiction author C. Michael Forsyth, is what they say. And there's a source with it. Elements of this report suggest that this may have been something of a hoax. For example, ice core drilling typically produces a passage only a few inches in diameter, certainly not large enough to transport a person through 2 miles of ice. Never mind a tank capable of containing a 33-foot long aquatic creature. However, it is certainly possible that the team was doing more than drilling ice core samples. Another point to note is that Dr. Padalka has so far proven impossible to locate, although this may be due to his being in hiding, and the account is known from only a handful of vague sources. So, there's some potential artist renditions of this thing, and that's about it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's strange.
What I also found was somebody had asked, is there any credibility to this organism 46B in that story in Antarctica on Quora, Quora, which is a site often that academics go to. Academics will go towards, and there are some people that offer some kind of interesting answers towards it. And so one person says, no, the only living organism in Antarctica and not on the waterfront are found to be in the Mountains of Madness, as detailed in the journal at the Mountains of Madness. The meme answer was the most upvoted. There's another guy, this guy, Pete Wilma, who says that there is no clear answer as the story of organism 46B has not been verified. However, some believe there could be some truth to it, as it would make sense that there could be life in such a remote and extreme environment. So that's what the thought experiment is with it, is that could something like this live in this kind of environment? Now, the thing that seemed a little intriguing to me with this is that this is essentially the same kind of argument for life on the moon Europa.
Hmm.
So Europa is one of the moons of Jupiter.
Yeah.
Yes, it's Jupiter. And Europa is thought to have water underneath a large sheet of ice. That it would have like a glacial, I guess, seas in it. So, there's a movie that was called Europa that came out a while ago. I remember seeing it on Netflix several years ago, and it was about a team that had launched a not space shuttle team, but like a team that went and traveled to Europa in the search for life. And what they had found is they managed to go into the water and find like a little bit underwater, and finally a squid-like creature attacked the crew. And the squid-like creature showed some signs of intelligence, although maybe not like human-level intelligence and whatnot. But I thought there was kind of like an interesting parallel with this story and then that movie that might be like, well, this has been theorized before. Now, the shape-shifting aspect of it, it would be like an illusion kind of thing, I think. It would have to be some kind of camouflage illusion, and there are lots of animals that are able to do that in their environment, usually used as a way to like avoid prey, but I guess that's what crocodiles do, is they blend in with the water to camouflage so they can hunt. So, is this thing possible? It seems to be. Large, in fact, ocean. The ocean is what holds the largest life forms on the planet, is in the waters.
It is. And this guy made a good point that it seems rather interesting that supposedly it paralyzes a victim with a neurotoxin and it's delivered through the water. But how would that work on a diver that is obviously in a wetsuit?
I remember that.
That is watertight.
So, you might mean dry suit, because I don't think wetsuits are watertight. Wetsuits are supposed to, like, keep you warm, but you still, like, feel wet. Dry suits are the ones that are, like, watertight, where, like, no water's going into it. I remember that from my days of sailing when I was younger. That there was a distinction between dry suits and wetsuits. Dry suits were a lot more expensive, I think, and wetsuits were, it was so that the water wouldn't be like cold, but you would still get wet in the wetsuit.
Interesting, very interesting. Okay, yeah. I mean, it's very, as Wardrick was saying, it's a very interesting idea that maybe there are these like organisms like in the deep that are, advanced, maybe even highly intelligent. It's, you look at like dolphins and whales and shit, and it's like, well, maybe there are some like highly intelligent creatures that live in the sea that just aren't as populated as we are.
Dolphins are the goddamn biggest trolls in the ocean. Oh yeah. Well, I remember Kriegler telling me stories that supposedly dolphins are, well, I don't know if this is the right word to say intelligent enough, but we'll say they're vicious enough that they will actually openly commit rape on other dolphins.
Yeah.
That's what I've heard.
That's fucked up.
And, well, I like the, you see videos in not aquariums, but like those like SeaWorld kind of places, and where like people can go in and like try to pet the dolphin and whatnot, and there's a button. You always see these videos of like the dolphin either like taking the tablet or taking like the hot dog or trying to take like the hat, and they just like fling it out into the water, and then they go like and their little laugh, and then they blow water out their blowhole and they swim away, and you go like, God, what a troll, what an asshole that dolphin is. Of course, that dolphin knew exactly what he was doing.
War pimps use dolphins as organic bombs? What the fuck? Is that true? Because they follow boats, ships? Oh, that's fucking terrible. Holy shit. Yeah. Right? Rockstar.
Yeah. I remember there's like supposedly that was one of the things that's one thing that's been explored is like weaponizing like dolphins, and
oh my God.
I don't know if orcas were on that either.
That would be terrifying. Seeing an orca coming up to you just on its own would be terrifying. Seeing like fucking 30 pounds of C4 strapped around it would be even more terrifying.
I know there was a story like a while ago. I can't remember what kind of whale it was. I think it was an orca, but I'm not sure. But they were harassing these like sea vessels that were out, these like fishing boats. And what had happened was, nobody knew why, but these orcas would go up and they pretty much just ram into the boat trying to like knock it over. and they couldn't figure out why that was. Anyway, the theory with it was that supposedly the orca would see the boat in the water, and that they would see like the I don't know if it would be, not the sail, but if they would see like either a mast or if it was like the dagger. No, yeah, it would be the dagger board in the boat, and they'd see that, and they essentially thought it was like another whale, another like orca or another whale, and they would like try to play with it, and that's their form of playing was that they would just go and like ram into it. But yeah, weaponized dolphins. Well, there was that
Oh my god.
What was that movie? I think it was Austin Powers. Was the sharks with like laser beams on the head?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was it.
Well, they've got a fucking like literal like a laser and a goddamn dolphin right there, like on his arm. Like what the fuck? Like that's not a Photoshop photo. It's probably a camera, honestly, but people are saying it looks like a laser. Yeah, holy shit, that'd be fucked. Like,
The dolphins would wreak havoc on all of you. That'd be their revenge on humanity for polluting the oceans.
well, it's a question. It's a question. Like octopus are like,
Oh yeah, octopus are super smart too.
octopus are like different though, like biologically so different than us. It's why I think some biologists have suggested that like if there was a candidate on a planet Earth for like panspermia, it would definitely be octopus. That if they may have arrived like not complete, but like cells of them arrived and then they kind of grew because they're just so weird. And that they could potentially be like really smart. Like, I mean, we obviously have tests to like, you know, like see how conscious the animals are. And I don't think octopus have like passed those tests necessarily. But
well, they meet all the requirements to show for like intelligence to evolve, and I guess that they have like a way to manipulate the environment. That'd be through like tentacles. They have I can't remember what the other ones were now. I remember that was one there. I think it was our guy Michio Kaku. Was the guy who talked about what you need to like for intelligence to arrive, and one of them was like you need some kind of way to manipulate the environment. Now I remember seeing one thing with a guy with an octopus, and there was a guy he would dive, and he was around. It was like pretty close to these docks. I can't remember where it was, and he said there would be this octopus that would be there like every day. And so the octopus, then he felt like he kind of developed a relationship with the octopus because he would go dive and whatnot, and then he'd look around, and all of a sudden the octopus would just be there like looking at him, and the octopus would change colors depending on like what its mood would be. So if it was feeling like playful, it would like change to like some other color, and then if it was like didn't like what he was doing, it would turn to like a different color, and it would kind of like swim away and whatnot. But that's kind of what the octopus could do, is they can like change colors to blend into their environments and whatnot too. But supposedly they're supposed to be very intelligent. You know, for a stupid animal.
Yeah, yeah, right. But the question is like maybe if like how like is there potentially a species down there that is that is just as intelligent as us, but maybe they're kind of like handicapped in a way. Maybe they're in very small numbers. Maybe they're in very isolated areas. Like, maybe that's a possibility. Is that an octopus there? Holy shit. Wow, that's crazy, huh? Whoa. That's trippy.
Yeah.
Holy shit. Let's go back and see that again. That was like actually... You can kind of see him now. But like, holy fuck, he blended right in. Man, that's crazy. It makes me think too of like, you know, other species and how they could have possibly evolved in other worlds. And remember that story? Which I don't know which. It was one of those 4chan posts where the guy was away with his parents and like he didn't remember the encounter, but his family did. And as he went to, we work with a psychologist or psychiatrist, and they hypnotically went through his memories, and they encountered these like beings that were just like strange, like they almost moved like a smoke when they were moving around, like fucking
you talk about how they would like laugh at him and whatnot, and then like his parents were like I remember that story, and he said that they went through the window and it kind of looked like it was like a weird smoke how they moved.
Sea creatures was this intelligent, they never be able to civilize because they can't work metal. Yeah, that's the thing, man. I don't know. Maybe, yeah, I guess they probably couldn't, but I guess it depends, like, on how advanced they get. I guess not in the way. It's one of those things about, like, progression. Like, we've only got one perspective on progression, I guess, like, which is using combustion. And then from there, it's using metals, but it's manipulating our environment. I think baseline, you have to be able to kind of really manipulate, interact with your environment. The question is, would there be a way for, like, marine creatures to do that, to, like, technologically move themselves forward? Because in a marine environment, yeah, you wouldn't expect you'd be able to melt down. Although you can technically have, like, lava and shit in a marine environment, but, like, I don't know. Yeah, it doesn't really seem conducive to, like, advanced life forms. But I don't know. Maybe there's a way. Who fucking knows? Maybe there's a way that it happens that we just haven't considered. Maybe there's a unique situation somewhere. I don't know.
It's I guess the question would be then, what would be the goal of the species, and it would be intelligent? Like, we're here on the land as humans, and we're just like, well, we want to go to the stars. We want to go we want to go vast distances and whatnot. But supposedly that's already, like, built into the, like a better phrase, the biology of this creature.
Yeah.
They can move very fast underwater. Okay, they don't need to invent cars. They can move pretty fast. They, supposedly they can, like, hunt and find whatever it is. Okay, well, they don't need to create agriculture then. Maybe they just, like, hunt for the entirety of their lives. One thing that I had heard, actually, and it was actually today that I heard, was that supposedly life expectancy, there is supposed to be some kind of correlation between life expectancy and, like, the size of the creature. And one of the things to note was that a lot of sea life tends to live for a lot longer than, like, what you and I would live for. As humans, the typical lifespan of human is, what's the average expected life? What's the expected life in North America? I think it's like 73.
Something like that, yeah.
It's gone down, like, a little bit in a year over the, like, recent years.
Yeah.
But I remember they were talking about, there were, like, sharks that are able to live up to, like, 400 years and whatnot. And then, you'd have, like, turtles and whatnot. They can live for a long time. And supposedly one of the things that's also connected to it is that they're just incredibly slow moving. That, like, the maximum speed for, like, the shark that moves really slowly would be, like, the equivalent of us going for, like, a very slow walk. And that would be, like, their maximum speed. So it probably has something to do with metabolism then, maybe. Because anybody that would have hyper metabolism, they'd probably, like, chart out their body pretty quickly. Of course, I'm not a biologist, I don't know.
There are some species that are biologically immortal, I guess. Hydra were first observed 4 years without any increase in mortality rate. That's one. There's another kind of... Oh, they do reverse development when starved. Later go back to previously attained level of maturity. There's a octopus, I think. Or no, the jellyfish, right. Wordworker, yeah. Technically, they're immortal. So, yeah, that's very interesting. So, like, hydras are small freshwater hydrosomes that they technically have been around indefinitely, which is kind of trippy to think about. Actually, they just have never died. So, yeah, can clone itself. Yeah. That's actually nuts.
What's that? Asexual reproduction, I think. They just, like, they just essentially, like, lop a part of their body off. Okay, then that part grows up, and so I think that's what that, or what's that called? Budding, I think, is what that's called.
I thought there was life cycle. Fertilize. The hydras, new jellyfish, are released at about 1 millimeter in size and feed the plankton, becoming sexualized mature after a few weeks. Okay. Biological immortality. Most jellyfish species have a relatively fixed lifespan. Okay. Experience revealed at all stages in the medusa. Okay. Reverse symbiotic cycle is unique in the animal kingdom. It allows the jellyfish to bypass death, rendering them potentially biologically immortal. The process
bypass death.
Yeah.
Wow.
It has not been observed in their natural habitat, in part because the process is quite rapid and because field observations at the right moment are unlikely. So, all of these global fucking elite are trying everything they can to figure out the immortal jellyfish so they can live forever. Turn back the clock of time.
That
young
was the point
again.
of the program that I heard today that talked about this. They said, now how do you apply this to humans? Really what
Yeah.
it talked about was that if these large animals are able to live for so long, then you would say, wouldn't the rate of cancer be like way higher in these animals?
Mm.
Because there's so much more of them, you would think the potential for cancer, or the likelihood that some kind of cancer would develop just from the sheer size of it. Then you go like, well, shouldn't these things be riddled in cancer? And supposedly it was like whales have like a really good defense mechanism against cancer forming in their body, and then they're just like, well, how do we harness this into humans?
Answer. Other massive
Anyway,
creatures have instead shown to be the world's longest living cancer-resisting mammals. Whales, elephants, other massive creatures.
Yep.
They have 1,000 times more cells than humans, should be more prone to cancerous mutations. It's contrary, but they don't. It's evolution at the species level, the incidence of cancer does not appear to correlate with the number of cells in an organism. For instance, of cancer in humans is much higher than the incidence of cancer in whales. Interesting. Stress. Whales live that stress-free lifestyle. Just biggest dick in the ocean. Nothing fucks with them.
Well,
Except for Japanese fishermen occasionally.
they just like float around. They just like, kind of like coast around going, eating plankton and whatnot. It's the easiest gig ever. They're so big that no other species is gonna fuck with them, and they eat literally the smallest thing that they can find. They just eat it by like a whale full, I guess. they just sing their whale songs going.
Literally it.
And then every now and then they go and do that little like thing where they flip up onto the ocean and they land on their back. Supposedly I thought I remember reading that there was no like reason. There's no apparent reason for them to do that. It's just something that's a mystery.
Interesting. That's interesting. Have you all seen the guy that uses his son's blood to reverse his aging? I have followed him. Yes.
There's another theory that was out there is that if you get blood transfusions from young people, healthy young people, that you can live forever. This is where Alex Jones talks about the vampires.
Yeah, that they use young blood, and that he's reversing his aging. He's a vegan as well. He almost looks healthier there than he does here, honestly. Which is kind of strange, honestly. I don't know if that is working for him or not. He looks like way more fucked here than he looks better here. Strange. Yeah, I don't know. It's very, very interesting. Yeah, I definitely, he does have a unique approach that I think definitely people need to hear kind of in fitness communities, which is this focus on being happy and healthy. Although he's obviously like neurotic as fuck about it, but focusing on being healthy rather than like being excessively fit and jacked and like tanned and all of these things that aren't necessarily conducive to health, like using steroids and stuff and other anabolic substances that are destructive to your health.
You just need your young boy or girl slave to siphon all the blood out of to maintain one's own. Isn't that the ultimate service to self?
It is. Is
that the ultimate service to self?
True vampire. Sucking his son dry. That sounds so fucked up. But that's what he's doing, technically. Sucking the youth out of his son every single day.
Would you consider that to be a psychic vampire, too?
I could see him as one, honestly.
Psychic vampire?
He does kind of look like the vampires in the Elder Scrolls, like in Skyrim. Like, where's Skyrim? Skyrim. What's like the stage 4 vampire, late stage vampire in the Elder Scrolls? What are they like? Oh fuck, here you go. Like here's like you get like right there, and then like boom. I don't know. He's got the same fucking hair, bro. We're getting somewhere. Here's the Oblivion. The fucking Oblivion vampire. Oh no. Different eye color, but
if his eyes start turning red,
Yeah.
You know something's up.
Oh my god. Yeah. Get that vampirism.
Oh,
Yeah.
I wonder if there's. You know what? Let's just not go down that rabbit hole today. Let's not go down that one.
Holy fuck!
But
yeah.
I guess we could talk about the. We go back onto the apocalypse. You could talk about that guy that tried to sue CERN too. That one.
Oh yeah, but trying to open the black hole, right? Yeah.
Now, CERN is another shady organization that was out there that people say is up to no good. They may be trying to unlock the secrets of the universe, but at the same time sell those secrets to none other than the evil powers, the great deceiver, the Deus Deceptor.
Deus Deceptor. This is a fucking goddamn, like, you can't read this article, but this is in various countries. Plaintiffs have sought court orders to halt the operation of CERN. The most extraordinary of allegations that the experiment may create a black hole that will devour the Earth, which is fucking insane.
It would devour the Earth. It seems like it would devour more than the Earth, but the Earth is what we're immediately concerned with.
Yes. Absolutely.
What's that one there? It says, what happened at CERN in 2023? What is that? What's going on?
With the induction of barrier buckets, these help synchronize the beam's injection to the next accelerator with its gap, preventing further beam loss and improving the efficiency of the whole complex.
Oh, boring.
Interesting. I'd never...
Boring.
Drunk Physics said he's been there, actually.
Has he?
Yes, supposedly. Yeah, he said that he was there. It's very, very cool. Will CERN destroy the world with black holes? I don't know. It's one of those things like, do we have the power to do that? But also, do we have the understanding to know that we can't? I think from what I understand, people involved with this and the actual science of this are fairly confident that we can't, but should stipulate that mistakes usually are made along the way, figuring these things out.
Barely confident. Barely confident.
Yeah.
One of the things I remember hearing about it is that if there was a black hole was to be made through it, it would either be like submicroscopic, and that it wouldn't last that long. It would essentially, for lack of a better phrase, evaporate. Is what I heard, and that if one were to form, it would nothing would amount from it. That it would it would form and then it would go away like before anything would happen. It would be so its gravitational pull would be so weak that nothing would come about from it. In fact, it would probably be more concerning that they might create like antimatter, because antimatter would create like a big time explosions if not contained.
Yeah. It's let's hope it doesn't fucking happen, bud.
Porthole to hell? It's apparently open a portal to hell. Well, let's see where this goes.
This is actually a real place, and I'll tell you the story behind this because it's kind of fucking interesting. I think this is somewhere in Russia, but Russian scientists supposedly back in the 70s lit this thing on fire. It's like a natural gas deposit, and it's been burning for like 50 years. You heard of this?
I have not.
Okay. It's Turkmen. Door to Hell. It's in Turkmenistan. The story of it. Let's see here. Let's see. Team burning challenges, rappelling. No, but they're gonna tell the story of it. They get a story. Door to Hell story. Russians. It has been said that it was intentionally set alight by Soviet authorities, hoping it would burn off in a matter of weeks.
Oh boy!
It's been burning off. It's been burning for how long is it? They'll say it here. 50 years later, the crater's still alight. Oops. Oops, comrade.
This will go out in a matter of weeks. No big deal. Oh fuck! This fire keeps burning after 50 years, eh? Yeah,
Yeah.
that was on previous administration. We are Russia now.
Yeah.
That was dumb Soviets.
Yeah, fucking just lit her up, huh? Like it's a good example here, actually, in the scientists, right? And how it's like, oh no, that'll burn itself out, and then again, 50 years later, she's still like fucking on fire. So, yeah.
You ever hear
Yeah.
about? Did you ever see the sounds of hell, or like hear about like that?
Oh, I
Like
think so.
somebody had like a supposed recording of like what it sounded like in hell. I think that one's been around for a little while.
Sounds from hell. Oh, it's a multi-chapter sound. Nope. Real sounds from hell. Yeah. There's a couple, I've heard a couple things. So, actually, one was in relation to a Schiz-o Sunday we did a couple weeks ago that, like, genuinely fucking freaked me out, which was that story about the human trafficking in China and how they have, like, these breeding pits, like, underground where, like, these people just it's like this sea of people that live in complete darkness. They're like
It's
these
where the
Thalmor.
Falmer live.
Yeah, like from the
Falmer.
Elder Scrolls. Yeah, and that you can hear them like underground. So like if you put your ear to like a wall or the ground in some areas, you can just hear this sea of screaming, and it's from all of these people. Like that fucked me up because I just visualized that for a moment. I was like, man, I fucking hope that's not true. But there was it reminded me of an experiment actually. This would be another maybe Schiz-o Sunday to go over. But there was this rumor of this experiment that they did in Russia with these I think it was probably in the 50s maybe, right? So just after World War II, Stalin had like rounded up all these fucking people and sent them to work in the railroads in the East. And anyway, some of them were subjected to these experiments, and what they were doing was they were torturing these people. They were seeing how long people can live without sleep. And so there were these experiments where the subjects were kept in a room and they were monitored extremely closely, watching their vitals. So right before they started to fall asleep, they'd be woken up by like a pulse, or they'd come in the room, or they'd show that waked them up. And have you heard of this before, Galentv?
No, but that's like a torture technique, I think.
Yeah.
At least that's what I saw in what was that show, Homeland? They did that to a terrorist in like the first season.
Right. Yeah. They go creepypasta. That's literally what this is. Oh yeah. And so anyway, they did this to a group of people, and I think most of them, if not all of them, died, but one of them didn't die. And what happened was, in the story, they just went completely insane and became possessed. But then they kind of developed this like superhuman strength or something, like not like Marvel level, but they just like shifted. They almost became possessed by something. And when they went in to go and inspect the person, he ended up like going not to killing everybody, I guess. And it was just this weird thing about like they unlocked something in the human brain, like, and he wasn't him anymore. He's just this beast, this mindless beast just emerged because his mind had been completely shattered, and he was completely feral after that. And yeah.
Have you ever tried like staying awake for like multiple days at a time?
I've been awake for a couple days. I had like bouts of insomnia like years ago, and I've been up for I think 3 days straight, and that was pretty bad. That was pretty horrible. Yeah.
I think my streak was 30 hours, and like I really had to work at it. Usually I pass out at like around like 22 hours is like the longest I would be able to get to.
Yeah.
But anyway, a mutual acquaintance of ours asked me, he's like, hey, do you want to try staying up for like 3 or 4 days in a row? And I said, why the hell would I want to do that? And he said, I don't know, supposedly you like hallucinate after like 3 days.
There you go.
And I'd say like, well, why is that? So that might be what happened to this fella is that he just went through like extreme hallucinations. Anyway, I think my friend said he made it like 3 days, and I think he saw like a little bit, but I don't remember. I'd have to ask him about it next time I see him.
You ascend up. Super Saiyan. You become a Saiyan.
We talked about no FAP. Maybe it's no sleep is the real way to ascend.
I saw the Christian, maybe that's it. Yeah, I can tell you I wasn't hallucinating, just extremely tired. It's just like very, very tired. But yeah. It's just it's just fucking. Anyway, that's
Oh, maybe that's because like what's that thing, DMT in your mind? Like when you sleep, you get like that release in your dream. But maybe that's like trying to release into your mind at the same time because your body wants to sleep. All
yeah,
signs are pointing to your body to sleep.
yeah.
You're for some stubborn reason your brain says no. We're gonna stay awake, and the body says I can't keep this DMT in anymore. We're gonna merge reality and the dream world all into one, and then that's where the hallucination comes in.
It could be it. I mean, I've never had like from just that like vivid hallucinations. Like, I'm trying to think of the most powerful hallucination I ever had. I'm trying to think. It probably would have been from just smoking too much weed, which is usually where it would come from. But
Naturally.
well, I just, and like I never was like into psychedelics really, as much as I was super interested by them. But it was just one time I got like unimaginably high, and I remember just walking. And DM Leak knows the story I told you before, but I was walking. And when I had my glasses on, what would happen is I would put my glasses on, and I would sober up momentarily. But if I took them off, I could see myself like it was a third person view, and I could see myself walking through the woods. And I still remember how I looked from behind, which was so weird. Like I remember like the back of my head and what I was wearing, and I remember the guys in front of me. And I put my glasses back on, and I would sober up, and I was able to talk to them when I had my glasses on. And I was trying to tell them like, "Whoa, guys! Like I'm tripping fucking balls here. Like we better stop for a minute." And then I would take my glasses off again, and then we fucked again. And I put them back, and then after that I lost track of where I was. I had no idea where I was after that.
It's like glasses it's like the it's like you're able to see through. Maybe that's why they're trying to prescribe glasses to so many people these days, so that they don't go through that experience ever. Because everybody has to wear glasses. They have to wear corrective lenses. We can't have people seeing into the real world here.
Yeah.
You gotta have people still staying in this regular, cozy world, the rose-tinted world, I guess, if you will. Although I don't know how rose-tinted the world really is, but yeah, that's a different thing. Anyway, another thing just about the DMT with that is supposedly that's what happened. You know how like people have these near-death experiences and whatnot?
Yes.
And then they talk about how like, oh, I saw like my family and whatnot, or like I saw heaven. The people that have died and then being resuscitated. Now, supposedly, what had happened is that when you're about to die, supposedly a large amount of DMT is released into your body.
Yes.
And that the thought is that what you're seeing here is really just like a dream state that you're in just before you die.
Yes. Yeah.
And I thought that makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, it does, because there's a lot of like meeting with religious figures, and like there's a bunch of stuff. Yeah, near-death experiences generally across the board. Although it's still interesting to hear about people's experiences, it's not as valuable to me because there's too much trauma going on. So yeah, I would kind of agree. Well, I don't know that I agree. I'd say that that's something that's been observed with people that increase. Ayahuasca too. Compound changes brainwaves to vivid waking dream states. So again, ayahuasca is DMT. So like when you're dreaming, your brain secretes DMT. And what people do is they smoke this, right, and or ingest this, and it creates that kind of effect, like you're dreaming, having this waking dream, this very vivid hallucination. And people have recounted having extremely vivid hallucinations, specifically on ayahuasca, although people who smoked DMT have said the same thing. I've heard that from a lot of people like over the years, that they smoke DMT and it's like a rocket ship. Joe Rogan's used that analogy too, interestingly, that it's like a rocket ship taking off, and then they're shot off into this like other dimension or something. And that they even sometimes have conversations with beings there, and it only lasts like 10 minutes and then you're back. But I don't know, stuff like that always spooked me. There was a story that I think his name is Ari Schaefer, or he was a friend of Joe Rogan's, and supposedly he took like way too much acid, like an accidental dose or something. Like it was an astronomical amount. And he said apparently it felt like he lived like 3 months in this trip. but it only lasted for like, I don't know, like a day or two or something. But he recalls at least like 3 months of like waking time from this trip that lasted for 24 hours. And that shit scares me so fucking much, man. I would just never, no, sorry. Like I just, you're into some fucking, what's that movie with Leonardo DiCaprio again, the Dream movie?
Inception?
Man, fuck that. Yeah, don't do drugs. Yeah.
You don't want to go to the Inception dream world and just have it all collapsing on top of you and have to live through that traumatic experience.
Oh man, yeah. I don't know. I was at a theory that if you learn how to lucid dream when you die, you can so-called heaven. Maybe, man. Yeah. Well, lucid dreaming in and of itself is effectively like a controlled trip too, right? That's the way I thought of it as, kind of like initially, I guess, that it's you're in this kind of simulated environment almost. That's kind of and again, I've only had one lucid dream really, which for some people is like some people can naturally just do it. I can't. But I've had like one lucid dream, and I still remember. I've had like vivid dreams, tons of vivid dreams, but like I had one lucid dream, and it wasn't what I thought it was going to be. Like it wasn't. I would describe it as probably like 50% as vivid as like reality. So it was still pretty fucking hazy. And it wasn't until I caught on to what was going on in the dream that I became conscious, where it became a little bit more clear, but still pretty fucking hazy. And it took a lot of work to like maintain that consciousness. And at the like trying to manifest anything or create anything in the dream, it instantly unraveled. Like it was extremely unstable, the dream for me. So it's strange phenomena that needs, it's such a subjective thing. How do you test it? As we learn to study brain activity more, we may be able to kind of test this better, but such a strange thing. The mind is such a strange thing. But so I'll just read this. They've been doing a study in England of DMT and have supposedly proven everyone is going to the same place. Oh yes, Lau. Yeah, there's a couple places in the UK they're doing it, and in Colorado there's a group of scientists doing this. But they've not only just been going to the same place, but speaking to the same entities actually. And in one instance, this guy, this just has been ongoing recently, but this guy, they had a breakthrough where they had this guy go under, and supposedly he encountered this entity, and the entity came up to him in the trip, and they're using this. It's intravenous DMT, so they put it in intravenously in higher amounts, so it consistently is in your body. And the entity came up and tapped him on the shoulder and said, "This isn't how you're supposed to be doing this." And then he said, "What?" And then it just kind of floated off. And then he went in again, and supposedly the same thing. He was having the trip, and then this entity in this space tapped him on the shoulder. He's like, "You're here again. This is not how you're supposed to be doing this. I already told you this." And then the entity wandered off again. The guy can never ask him, "The fuck you talking about?" So it was just an interesting encounter. And this is I know it's trippy as fuck, but this is, and again, it's like not everybody's going to value this. Like this is very anecdotal, but again, labs, it's kind of like remote viewing. It's like it's in a lab setting. Like these people are pretty accredited individuals experimenting with woo, which I think is fun. But anyway, yeah. So I don't know. It's definitely fucking interesting. I feel dreams are a test on what your natural impulse would be in certain scenarios, especially just higher power. Yeah. Would there be something someone would do if they have a hybridization program going on? That's a good question. That's a good question, actually. Yeah.
Ooh. Ooh. Maybe that's what's going on in the Nightmare Hall down at Dulcie.
What's Phil
They
Schneider
keep people
telling the
awake.
truth?
Yeah, they keep people awake. And you have to be awake for so long so that the DMT goes through, and then you can create the alien hybrid by harvesting the awakened, the ascended beings' semen. Then you take that,
Semen.
or the or eggs, and you can take that, and then you can put in now the new ascended reproductive bodily fluids, and then you can use that to fertilize an alien egg, maybe.
Yeah.
Oh, it's all coming together.
It'll be
Not
like,
really though. That was a bunch of crap that I just said.
what are those guys? They get the yogis. They get up and they drink their own piss every morning. Have you heard of these guys?
What?
Have you heard of this? Have you heard of these fucking guys?
I think I remember hearing something about this once, but that's still a funny statement just on its own.
So these yogis, they have this thing, right? And this is like
Yeah.
fucked, by the way. But everyone knows like that first piss you have in the morning is fucking bad, right? Like you have pissed all night.
Dehydrated, yeah.
It's dehydrated, like it's fucking like night of drinking, like good fucking luck, right? So these fucking guys get up every morning and their whole like modus operandi is to drink that first morning piss because they think that it has some kind of like I guess like detoxifying effect in their body, passing it through their system again. And so there's this like hipster fucking dude. He's an older guy. He's like in his 50s. He's a good looking guy, which I think why he gets all the fucking attention, honestly. But he's been practicing this piss drinking for like 20 years. And I couldn't even fucking watch the video of him. But he wakes up, takes this dirty morning piss in this bowl, and then just chugs it back. And I almost fucking puked. Like, I just can't fucking do it. Like,
It's like, and you just nearly puked from it.
yeah, I can't even fucking handle that shit. Like, just fucking absolutely, just don't. Yeah, I think, yeah. It's cleaner than tap water. In some places that might be true, actually.
It probably is.
Yeah.
Now, the only thing is, does the fluoride flow through your body, and does it go into the piss, and then would you re-drink the piss fluoride?
You're just cycling all the chemicals
Yeah,
endlessly.
you just cycle the...
Yeah.
Well, eventually you filter it out, maybe.
Yeah. What is the what's Twitch TOS here anyway? I'm curious. Fucking Yogi. I'm not gonna watch the fucking video, but I want to see if I can find the guy that does this shit.
Oh boy.
Where is he? God damn it. Strong filter. Oh, I don't know where he is. Anyway, he's like some hipster, like California guy.
Oh, we
He's
got
like
a there's a still of the guy drinking mid piss, or drinking
right.
or mid drinking piss.
Drinking cow pee.
Cow pee.
Drinking urine is a thing, and there's a meetup group in Colorado.
If you're thinking, am I really
Meetup
watching
group
what
to go
I
pee.
think
Do
I'm
they literally
watching?
have a pee
You're
party?
right. That's a woman drinking
There
her
it
own
goes.
pee for the first time.
That was fine.
To understand why.
And you're not familiar with this then?
No.
Was verdict.
Which is a good thing.
Let's meet Therese Nickel an hour and a half earlier
I do the foot soaks.
at the Boulder Public Library.
Oh, I'm drinking tea.
No demonstrations allowed.
DM Leaker brings up a good point.
This is the
Can't pee in someone's
therapy
mouth, but you can
meetup.
pee in the cup and then drink the pee from the cup.
That's
Yes,
true.
the cup has to be a middleman. The middle person.
Is that what it is? These guys have like this get together, like, and this
And
is.
I'm Christopher McClure.
When Western medicine didn't work,
They
the
literally
people in
having a
this
pee
group
party.
looked inside themselves for an answer.
Really big in
Goodness.
India.
What?
That's where it comes from.
Oh yeah,
Chris
this
says
is
the
the.
ancient
Yeah.
therapy helped the eczema on his hands.
I'd say a good way to start is just like
He had
What did
eczema
they
on
talk
his hands.
about?
Yeah.
Did they talk about like how the pee tastes and that they
Gupta has
you
been
know what?
drinking
After a
urine
month of
since
doing this, it's really not so bad. That first 3 weeks I was terrible, but I just had to keep doing it because I knew that I wouldn't be able to come back to this club.
I feel like there's like an ulterior motive here though for this as well. Like,
And
I
Therese
know this
does
is like
lots
a
of her
fetish
times,
thing,
but she
like-
also soaks her feet in her urine.
My feet feel lighter than air, and
Now, do you
The
think
practice is
this will go hand in
controversial.
hand? You will eat the bugs and you will drink the pee.
drink the piss. We gotta stop drinking all their water. It's like you guys have got tons of water in your body. Like, use it. What are you doing? Like, you've got plenty of water. Just keep cycling it. Jesus.
Well, Bill Gates had that machine that turns your pee into drinking water.
You poop.
So that's like-
it's your poop in the drinking water.
Oh, your poop in
It's
the
your
drinking
poop in the
water.
drinking water. Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
boy.
How
How do you get the water from like solid poop?
Hold on. Bill Gates. Poop. What's gonna happen here? Gives a talk with a jar of Okay, hold on. Poop to
It's a
water.
funny question. Does Bill Gates own Waste Management? It's a
That's right.
hilarious
Bill
question.
Gates drank poop water to entertain an audience on the internet. The catch: 5 minutes. He was drinking a glass of water. Sounds boring, right? The catch: 5 minutes before Gates took his first sip, the water had been human waste pumped in from a local sewage facility. Hold the fuck on here. This is too much. He's drinking old fucking doo-doo water. Yeah. IGN News.
That turns human waste, yes, that means poop, into potable drinking water. A Gates Foundation technology that is set to begin a pilot program soon in Dakar, Senegal. It uses a steam to invest in them and then start a profitable waste treatment business.
Now, would
The
I
processor
trust these
wouldn't take
guys?
Human waste
Fuck
out of drinking
no.
water. It would turn waste into a commodity with real value in the marketplace. It's the
not to
ultimate
trust.
example of that old expression: one man's trash is another man's treasure.
That's not to trust.
A lack of clean drinking
Go for
water
it.
kills hundreds of
Bill would drink that. Bill would drink that unfiltered. Come on now.
Oh,
He's that kind of guy.
No, he didn't drink that. He did. He took a pretend sip.
He took a
He
bit of
didn't
a
drink
pretend
that.
sip.
He took a pretend sip.
Yeah, we all know he took it. He chugged it unfiltered. That's how Bill rolls. That's how Bill. It's the kind of guy that Bill is. Yeah. Bradley's Butler bottom of glass. Yeah. Jesus fucking Christ. Yeah.
Well, which topic do you think was more disturbing? The end of the world and the Mayan calendar, which didn't come to pass, or now we've gone on to like drinking poop water?
They're both equally disturbing. One could lead to the other potentially. If we endure another cataclysm, we might end up in a situation where we're drinking poopy water. No choice.
Water.
Yeah.
I guess so.
Yeah. Yeah, this has been an interesting night, hasn't it?
We've gone through a variety of topics.
Yes, yeah, it has been.
Here on the anniversary of the end of the world, we're going strong. 11 years into the apocalypse.
There you go. It's almost done. We're reaching the crescendo here, and then it'll all be done soon. So, yeah. Well, Mr. Galentv TV, I guess, is that where we want to wrap things up then?
That seems like that's a good spot. I think when we started looking at the poop water and trying to drink piss, it was probably time to stop.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. That's kind of went sideways there, you know. But like, yeah, it is what it is. Anyway, to everybody that stuck around, thank you, and to everyone, happy holidays. Because I may not speak to people honestly until after the holidays, because I'll probably be off for a little bit. But maybe Galentv TV will do a little stream at Crendell's place on the weekend. Maybe we'll do something like that.
Yeah, maybe we could show. You get a face of some of the characters. They'll be going over there.
Yeah, that could be kind of fun for people watching the VODs too. So, anyway, everybody, yeah. So we're 9,000 tabs over there. Yeah. Anyway. All right, Galentv TV.
Happy holidays, everybody. And you know what? Let's come back next year to celebrate the next anniversary of 2012.
That's when we'll see you next. So everyone, until then, peace and happy holidays. Stay safe.